So today I want to talk to you about trailblazing. And a lot of times we think about trailblazing as these certain people who did something for the first time, and they stand out in history. Ooh, that Steve Jobs, he was a trailblazer, or, whoever. And what I want you to know is that we are all trailblazing all the time, because every single moment that is happening for the very first time in the history of the universe. And so every time, every moment you make a choice, it is a trailblazing choice that you are making. Now, some of you may feel, well, I got this 9-to-5 job. I get up, I do the same thing, I do it again, I do this, I do that. And I want you to know that it's not like it appears. That in fact, you are trailblazing your life. And in doing so, you are adding to the trailblazing of the universe in every moment. One of the things that I was thinking about this past week was how there was a time millions of years ago when your ancestors, our ancestors, had a thought about the future, that then had another thought. An ancestor after that had another thought about the future, thought about when they had kids, what their kids would be like, that then thought what their kids would be like, that then thought what their kids would be like, all the way up to us. A lot of times we think about this stuff in the realm of our grandparents or our great-grandparents. But this trail that we're still blazing started a really long, is that me? Started a really long time ago. A really long time ago. I saw this on Facebook. It's what got me thinking about all this. Facebook. It's great. If you scroll enough, you'll hit something that actually hits you. And it said that we are the promise of our ancestors. That's who we are. But do we live that way, right? So, in many ways, I was lucky as a kid, though it didn't always feel that way to me. Somehow, some way, at a very early age, I decided that I was going to live a life that inspired me, that I was proud of, that I felt really good about. And I had no skills to know how to do that. I had parents who were all about my IQ and how smart I was, and how it didn't matter what I did as long as I was the best at it. And trying to be the best at stuff really was hard and didn't give me a lot of joy. So instead, I wound up rebelling and wound up being the worst at stuff, like graduating high school with a C- average, just to show them. But along the way, I started wanting to know what it really was that it took to have a life that felt fulfilling. And in that journey, I have done 97 different types of work. Crazy. It's a crazy number. And they're all over the place, right? Obviously, you guys know I've been a musician, but I was a stockbroker on Wall Street when I decided money was the thing, right? I sold insurance for the same reason. I produced a late night talk show in San Francisco at one point. I was a DJ. I sold Electrolux vacuum cleaners door to door. That one didn't last very long. Now, admittedly so, a lot of those positions happened quickly and disappeared quickly because what I wanted was to be a musician. But here's what happened to me in music. Here's I've talked to you about my music career a little bit. Here's another little nugget from that. I hated other musicians. I loved music, loved playing music. But dealing with the egos of other players drove me nuts. Now, it's really easy for me then to blame it all on the other musicians, because I had not at that point figured out that it was me who needed to shift. And that's the thing that you have to see I would recommend seeing if what you want to do is develop a life that feels really fulfilling, is take the time to look at yourself and see, what skills do I need to grow in me? And this is why this teaching is just so incredible, right? Because we've got this teaching that says you're responsible for what you create, what you focus on, you give power to. But back then, I didn't really know that, so it was all these other crappy musicians who were the problem, right? And so I kept thinking music and then I met people in the music business when I started getting signed to labels and publishing companies and management companies, and I didn't like any of those people. And that made it really hard to be in that business, even though that's the business I wanted to be in, or thought I wanted to be in, which is really different, because what I wanted was to have a fulfilling life. And I think sometimes we get stuck on it has to look like this, right? I know I did. Has to look like this. I got to be a rock star. If my life's ever going to be fulfilling, I have to be a rock star. And by doing that and focusing that way, I kept running into all these situations that I really hated. Were no fun at all for me. So it came down to being in a world where the 5 minutes on stage were the only time I was ever having any fun. And that wasn't enough time in the scope of a day, of a life, to really feel fulfilled. Even when it was a great gig, which I had. I had gigs with, I had this one gig of over 1,000 people singing back to me my song. I mean, that's killer. You have a situation like that. That sounds fun as all get out. But that gig was over, and then I had to deal with all the other stuff. And so I kept looking, and I tried carpentry, right? And so here I am. This is all before I got into science of mind. So I tried carpentry because I think, okay, one of the great things about carpentry, particularly if you're framing, is there's nothing subjective about it. Either it's plumb or it's not, right? Either it's straight up and down, either it's square or it's not. When you hang in a door, either the door opens and closes. I remember the first time I hung a door, and I'm standing there just going like this. The other carpenters are just staring at me, and I just couldn't believe it. I'm just going like this. Open, close, open, close. This is great. This is really cool. This works. This is how this works. There's nobody going around going, well, so, maybe that wasn't. It was like, it worked. And when you go from a thing like the music business where everything's so subjective into something that's so objective, it felt really good for a while. And so maybe you've done that in your life. Maybe you've gone from one thing to another, made some sort of drastic change because you were just so tired of all the things you ran into with the other thing. That's what happened to me. I was so tired of everything I was running into in the music business that I needed this other thing that was just so not that. But then, you know what happened? I started getting really good at carpentry and got into cabinetry, and then all of a sudden you're back into the subjective. What people like in terms of a design of a cabinet and how it goes and the wood you use and everything else. All of a sudden, I'm back into the subjective. And maybe you've noticed that in your own lives, that if you've avoided something because it hurts so darn much, you ran into that same thing in something else. You run into it again, because in the end, it's us. We have to deal with ourselves. And every step of the way, we're trailblazing. We're making these choices on how it feels and what it is we're after. There was a time I thought that freedom, if I only had freedom, then I'd be happy. And so when I was selling insurance, I sold my business, my book of business, for enough money where I was set. I had freedom. It's the kind of freedom where if today I wanted to fly to another country, I could grab my wife and get on that plane and fly to that other country, my ex-wife, fly to another country, and we had the money to do that. We could do anything. And so I'm standing on this bridge. I don't know if I've told you this story before, but I'm standing on this bridge in Asheville, North Carolina, realizing I have fulfilled the success I thought would give me joy. I was free and recognized I was miserable. And broke down crying on this bridge, looking out at this gorgeous view. I was so miserable. And that's what really started my journey in Science of Mind, where I finally met John Waterhouse and started working through some of this stuff here, trailblazing a little differently, because now I started understanding that I'm the one setting the trail. I'm the one who's setting each step of the way, and I get to do that every day and in every moment, and so do you. Every day and in every moment. And so I'm going along, and I've told you guys a story about playing music and then becoming a minister, and so I get this job in Burbank, California, and it still doesn't feel right. And it was only the other day. This is just like the other day, like a couple of days ago, that it truly dawned on me that wasn't them, it was me not ready to step fully into who I came here to be. That I had the opportunity in Burbank to do that. And it looked to me like that is what I was doing at the time. It is only in retrospect I'm looking back going, geez, I really wasn't there yet. I wasn't who I am now. And that's the thing, is that we continue to blaze that trail every day. Every day we are blazing that trail to become more of who we have come here to be. But if we have our sights on, it's this that's going to give me my fulfillment. It's money. It's power. It's that house. If only I had that job. If we start looking at life like that, then we miss the fact that it's us blazing our trail every moment of every day to become that which we have come here to be. Burbank was close. I used to say to Ash, this is the best day job I ever had. But that's not what you want from your minister. You want your minister to say, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. This feels like my sweet spot. And yet I wasn't there. And I didn't even realize it at the time. And maybe you haven't either, only in retrospect. But if you can see this, you can see who you need to be in your sweet spot. Because I have to tell you that Ash and I wake up singing most mornings and laughing because we feel so much in our sweet spot. I am just in heaven. I'm going out. I didn't do a single coffee date in Burbank. It hadn't dawned on me how important it was to connect with the people who were in my congregation. That's something that just came to me here. But that's how it goes, right? You go along. You run into stuff, it's not working out. And then something shifts in you. It may look like it shifted out there. Talking to my brother the other day, and I'm telling him I have finally found my place in the world. And he said, Edmonton? And I said, yes. I don't care how I got here. I'm just so happy I'm here. And what I can tell you from feeling totally in my sweet spot, feeling totally alive and thriving and fulfilled in who I am and how I am doing, is that I want that for all of you. I want all of you to have the feeling that I now get to have every day. That's what I want for you. And because I've done it, I can support you in getting there if you don't feel like you're there. This center can support you in getting there if you don't feel like you're there. If you do feel like you're there, let's celebrate together. Let's enjoy that too. Because the thing about it is what I notice is I'm not done. Now that I've arrived at my sweet spot, I still have work to do. I see it every day, right? We all still have, if you're in your sweet spot, I promise you still have more work to do. Because this evolutionary trailblazing thing doesn't stop until you leave the body, until you transition into the next whatever. I don't know what that is, but I know I'm going to enjoy this as much as I can right here. Don't you want to too? Are you with me on this? Am I the only one? Yeah, no, this is what it is. And so one of the cool things that's going on around here that I mentioned last week was what's called shared leadership. And I mentioned that I'm taking this course that's supporting in all this. And what the teacher mentioned last week is that there are only 11 organizations in the entire world who have successfully created the kind of organizational leadership we're trying to do here. They're all over the world. They're all in different industries. But there are only 11 that they've found so far who have actually pulled off the kind of trailblazing we're wanting to do here. You guys are part of something that has rarely been accomplished on this planet. And so yeah. Now, I'm not saying we've accomplished it yet. We are in process here, okay? And the thing about it is, and what I've learned from the entire scope of my life, sometimes it cracks me up so much. I'm in my 60s, right? And now I hit my sweet spot. I mean, that's hilarious. That's a journey, baby. That's a journey, you know? But I'm here, and this place is here. And what we want to do here is something that is like never been done before, or rarely been done before. Never been done in CSL before, or Unity, okay? And so what that means is the odds are we're going to run into some dead ends. We're going to do some things poorly, because whenever you try to do something, at first, whatever you're trailblazing to do, you may not do it great the first time you try, or the second, or the third. So that's part of the process, is in knowing we are headed someplace. You in your life are headed someplace that may not be where you may not be yet. You may not even know how. And that's the thing about it. You don't have to. We don't have to know how we are doing this. You do not have to know how you are going to get to having that life fulfilled. Keep asking the question, What I love, you know what attracted me here in the first place? What made me think this was my place was the very first interview I had with the selection committee. I got off with them and I went to Ash and I said, this is it. This is the place. Why? Because of the questions they asked. When you ask great questions and you're willing to hang in there with those questions, the answers will come. But you got to be willing to hang in there. So things around here may not run smooth all the time. There may be a glitch here and there as we work out this new organizational structure that's only been done 11 times in the entire planet. But we are involved in something incredibly exciting here. You are involved in something incredibly exciting here. And it can, if you will let it, carry into your life, your personal life. You get to have a life in your sweet spot. You get to have a life that feels, that has the quality of, oh my God, this is incredible. I know that because I did it. And I ain't all that special. I did it. You could do it. I know we can do this together. Thank you. I love you. Thank you.